The Hollywood Brown injury update, risers and fallers from week 1 of the preseason, coming up next here on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, friends and neighbors. Hope you are all doing well. We're brought to you by LinkedIn. Check out LinkedIn Jobs right now. You can post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Terms and conditions are what we're going to talk about today. The condition in particular of one big-time receiver in this offense. This is Chris Clark. I'm Ryan Tracy. Get my thumb in front of the camera there. You can check him out at KC Chiefs Corner. And I am an NFL 33, RGR Football, and Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting. Thanks for making us your first listen. We appreciate that, especially the day after the first preseason game. Check out another Locked On show for your next listen. You can like and sub this one because we start on YouTube and then it goes out to Spotify and Apple Music and anywhere you can get a free show. You can get us 5 days a week plus. Then, if you want breaking news and whatever happens next, you can get on our text line. For all of our locos that are there, we appreciate you guys, everyday listeners. That's what we call the locos. You can get that at 816-357-8781. Now, what we need to know, other takeaways, other guys that made plays and may have shed some light on what this process is going to be. That's coming up later in the show. Then we will, in the second segment, we're going to get to Hollywood Brown. There has been a number of updates and what it means for the wide receiver group. But we start with risers and fallers. We got to get to the big ups and downs last night. And I think that was important. We had to hit the big bases. But there are plenty of other guys who saw their stock either climb or fall. And from my eye, I feel there were more climbers, risers than there were fallers, especially on the defensive side. There were a couple of things that really stood out to me that we'll go over. But in general, how did you take it away?
I think when you look at this and you look at the game overall, obviously you want to win the games. 26-13 is not the result that you want, and I understand that. But when you look at how things went, and really, this kind of reminds me of a lot of Chiefs games during the regular season over the past couple of years, if I'm being honest. I mean, go back and watch the past 2 years of Chiefs play. Usually speaking, if Kansas City is going to allow a score, it's going to be on the first drive. And they basically gave Jacksonville the ball at their own 30, at the Chiefs 30-yard line. I mean, they were just welcoming them in there to the end zone. So overall, when you look at it that way, you're missing Chris Jones, you're missing your best player on defense, you're missing some of your corners, you're missing your all-star linebacker as well, and Nick Bolton. So you are missing some key pieces, and all of them are likely to be back for the regular season. So not to mention your starting safety. So I think you have to take it with a grain of salt. And I will say, looking back, obviously I think the guy that rose the most is Carson Steele, just based on the way he ran and how hard he was able to run. And I know you're really enjoying me saying that. But you look at the defensive side, Jaden Hicks had a good game too. I mean, he had some plays and he showed the ability to get down on special teams as well and make a tackle, which is going to stick out and help as well.
Yeah, I agree. I am enjoying the fact that you are saying that now. I don't have to be.
I know you are.
Reason here.
No, I'll give credit. He was good.
Yeah, absolutely right. One guy that I don't think we gave enough attention to last night, because when I went back and looked at the snaps, it wasn't a ton. I have to double check here. I want to say it was only 16 snaps. He was only targeted once. But I thought Irv Smith showed himself to be somebody that has the experience that he can rely on. He was in the right place at the right time. I didn't think he looked out of place in any of the reps that I saw. So overall, on a night where Noah Gray was certainly solid and the most consistent backup tight end on this roster, I thought Irv Smith said, hey, I know the rookie's going to be good, but I'm still here and I'm still viable. I know Jared Wiley struggled in a couple of phases and people were concerned about it in particular in the passing game. But in the shadow of that, I thought Irv Smith bought himself some goodwill there.
No, he definitely did. And I think that you look at what that's going to mean for him. He is there are some people that put him on the roster. There are some that don't. I am kind of stuck in the middle right now. I'm not exactly sure if he makes the roster or not, because you look at the positions. We've talked about it all year, and especially with the Hollywood Brown injury, which we're going to be talking about next segment. Can they afford to keep 4 tight ends, or are they going to have to keep an extra receiver that they weren't planning on because now you have an injury and Hollywood could maybe be out for a couple of weeks in the regular season? So it's all going to be part of that. And I think Irv Smith looked good, but he's got a very high hill to climb if he's going to be on this roster, because he's got to make himself somebody that is going to be basically indispensable as a fourth tight end.
Yeah, I agree. You have to have that option. On the defensive side, the guy that I felt rose the most, and I got to double check because I believe he split his reps across both safety and right side corner, and that was Chris Roland Wallace, the rookie from USC that has been very unheralded to this point. He actually rotated to safety later in the game and looked very comfortable doing it. I didn't see many safety snaps on his film in college, but I mean, when he's rotating to single high against the 3s and 4s, yes, it's low competition, but it means that he has it in his back pocket. And I thought that versatility, especially with the question about Justin Reed, if you're going to take a chance on somebody, a guy that's versatile there, I think he's somebody that they might give more reps to. Was a total of 38 in this game. I think he may get as many or more in the second game.
Yeah, he definitely may, and I'm going to be curious to see if they split it between CB and safety again, and how that plays out. And the only thing that's really could keep him from getting more reps in the second game is I do expect that the ones are going to go deep into the second quarter. So that may take a couple of snaps away from him, but we'll see how that ends up. The curious thing for him is I don't think, and obviously it's possible that I'll end up being wrong on this, but I don't think there's any way he cracks the actual active roster. But I do think that if he continues to play the way he has, he gives himself at making the practice squad, or at least forcing somebody else to claim him if the Chiefs release him.
Agreed. And that has something there. I want to see more from him. I'm interested to see what comes for next week. May be able to make up some ground there. We'll see what he does. We're also waiting for official word, but we have some updates on Hollywood Brown. That's coming up next. When you're hiring for a small business, you want to find the quality professionals with the right fit for the right role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. It has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team. I'm always looking at LinkedIn. It isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you find professionals you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively looking or searching for a new job might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get qualified candidates within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. It goes down the easiest way to post your job for free is on linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Folks, make sure if you want 24/7 coverage of the NFL, we have it for you here on YouTube and on Amazon Fire TV at the Locked On NFL Today stream. It is all the time. Whenever you're up and awake, you can get NFL news, including us. So check that out and get subscribed today. It is Sunday afternoon, and there have been a couple of updates. One very, very recently here. What's the current status of Hollywood Brown?
Well, he is back in Kansas City. He stayed the night in Jacksonville, and so he was discharged from the hospital and is back in Kansas City now. So he was able to get a flight back to Kansas City. That's about the biggest part of it that we know. We know the injury was announced last night. We kind of reported that already on the stream. So at this point, it's just a wait and see approach. And I'm guessing we'll get more information of some sort. I don't know how much we'll get because Reed is usually very closed off when it comes to reporting on injuries. But I would imagine that there's going to be some kind of indication for the team. The thing I'll be curious about, and this is something I said yesterday, is does he show up for practice on Monday? Is he out there? Because if he's out there, I think that's a good sign. If he's not out there, then it's going to be a question. And we only have a couple more training camp practices left to where we can see whether or not he's actually out there. And then you'll have to be waiting for reports and if people are going to be reporting that he's, out there for practice once they get back to Kansas City or not.
Yeah, that's a critical step. It sounds like he avoided surgery, which is a positive sign. When we know the specifics, we will definitely have more in-depth commentary on it. So make sure that you like and sub, and you're on the channel here or subscribed on the audio platforms. Now that's just
be
one
definitely
piece
sending
of
that out on the text line. Just saying.
Absolutely. Yes. So don't miss that news. That is a critical function of what they've been doing and the path they meant to go this year. So hopefully it's just an injury that delays his presence in Kansas City, doesn't negate it. So we'll have all of that for you when we get official word. But then we also have to take a look at what does that absence mean, whether it's just for the preseason. My gut feeling right now is you probably don't have him week 1. And that's okay. How do you take up the slack? I'm not convinced that the Chiefs want to rush Xavier Worthy onto the field as a starter, 70 plays kind of guy. So, A, do you agree with that? And then the alternative, I think I have a plan or I think I understand what their plan is going to be. What do you think?
I agree. I don't think that they want to rush Worthy onto the field. I'm not so sure that they won't give him, 50 or 60% of the snaps week 1, as long as it's not, something where he's having to do all 3 different positions. I think that they could use him 50% or 60% of the snaps, and they could use him in multiple different roles. So it may not just be, him in the slot or as a split out as a wide receiver. Maybe they use him in the backfield once or twice. Maybe they use him on an end around. I mean, there's lots of different ways he can get involved in the offense. So I do think that that's going to be something they're going to be looking at. The big thing, though, and the biggest thing that is going to play into this is you have to feed Rashee Rice. I mean, that's the reality of what this is going to come down to. And with him likely not going to be on suspension at this point, considering we're still at a point where the season's less than a month away, and we still don't have a court date for him. I can't imagine the NFL is going to be doing anything before the season starts. If they were going to, I would have thought that they would have already said something, just because of the fact that they've got to plan for the season. So at this point, I would say, I'm not going to say it's for sure he's not getting suspended, but I would say it's sure looking more and more likely that he won't. The bigger question that you have to ask is, who's the next guy up? Because we didn't see Justin Watson at all. And I know he's coming back from an injury, but his not even playing says that he's going to have to basically do everything in preseason game number 2 to be ready to go for the regular season. He's been out of camp for quite a while. So that's a big question. Wide receiver could really be a big issue the first couple of weeks of the season if Worthy's not able to get acclimated and they're able to double Rice very easily.
From everything I saw from Worthy, he looks like acclimation isn't going to be a problem. Defenses are already reacting to him, as we talked about last night. So even if it is 50% of the snaps, I think that's great. That's exactly what I would suggest as well. But with Watson's injury, like you said, week 1 is a question mark. And the guy who was on the field in wake of the injury was somebody that we thought would be fighting for a minor role. And some people even want cut out of Kansas City. I think the big chance here is for Sky Moore to up his value, because I think he will be the guy that gets a lot of that shot, followed by McCole Hardman, because I don't think that they need to see as much from McCole in the preseason as they do, say, Sky or any of the guys that are lower on the depth chart.
Here's the problem, though, and this is, you and I would discuss this, but this is the real problem, especially with the Hollywood injury and thinking that maybe he's only going to be out the first week. If that's the case, you can't put him on IR, so you're going to be down at that position. Either you're going to have only 5, or you're going to have to keep another 6th wide receiver that you probably weren't planning on keeping, or I guess it will be a 7th wide receiver. Your top 3 are set. Hollywood is your number 1. Rashee Rice is 2. Worthy is 3. Justin Watson's likely 4. I still don't think that Kadarius Toney is going anywhere, and I think Remigio has to be there for special teams. So Sky Moore doesn't really have a spot on the roster right now unless they keep 7, which I'm not saying they won't, but it's going to be tough. And we haven't, and my biggest concern, I guess, with that is we haven't seen anything from Justin Watson, and it's possible that he's going to be able to go and he'll be fine, but it's also possible that, maybe he's coming back from this and it's not going to be as easy for him to come back from, and he's going to be not 100% by the time week 1 comes around. If that's the case, that's a bigger problem, and I really don't know what you do at that point.
Yeah, I think it makes it tougher on other position groups because you can't really do much. You can't put Hollywood on PUP, and you can't put him on injured reserve if you want to use him this year. So there's no way they do either of those things, in my opinion. He'll be on the 53-man roster because he has to be. The question becomes, is that fourth tight end out the window now in order to carry that seventh wide receiver?
Yeah, and maybe it's a situation where they go heavy on 12 and 13 personnel in week 1, and maybe that's how they solve that problem. That's potentially possible. Maybe it's another scenario also where they decide they're going to have to keep 4 running backs, and then you're running with a fullback, and you're changing the game plan. You're having Worthy take the safeties over the top, and mainly just trying to keep the safeties back and run the ball more. There's lots of different ways that they can attack it. And if it's only a week or two, that changes things. But you're right. They can't put him on PUP. He's not eligible anymore. And they could put him on IR as of last cutdown day, but he'd have to be out for at least 3 weeks. So if he's not going to be out those 3 weeks, he's going to have to be on the active roster, which makes everything more difficult.
The only thing that I see as well is if Justin Watson is not able to return for this next ball game, you could release him at cutdown and bring him right back after a week. As a vested veteran, he doesn't have to clear waivers. You can make an agreement with that, and that could work, and it allows him that time to rest. So we're going to have to see how that unfolds. Hopefully we'll have more information for you on Hollywood Brown tomorrow once we hear from the team itself. But there's a lot of other things that went on in preseason game number 1. They're going to affect what happens tomorrow and the next day and this next week. All of that is coming up next. Passion, drive, patience. It brings the trophy home, just like the Chiefs have. And it can also affect your main vehicle, your ride or die. eBay Motors has everything that you need to maintain that vehicle, give it its peak performance, as well as over-the-top superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, everything to make it speedy, powerful, and stylish, all at eBay Motors, because they have you covered. Over 122 million parts for your or die, and you'll always find exactly what you're looking for because eBay has a guaranteed fit. Your part will fit your ride every single time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're not burning cash. You're burning rubber. At least you're trying to. With all the parts that you need and the pieces that you want, it's easy to turn your car into an MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. Guaranteed fit is available for U.S. customers only. Folks, make sure you go subscribe to the Substack that is KCChiefsCorner.com. You can get there, or NFL 33. Make sure you check out RGR Football. We do a lot of work over there. Get your second listen here on the Locked On Sports Network as well. Go ahead.
Really quick, I just want to update because I was looking at this. The IR rule changed. So they are able to put somebody on IR. It used to be that you had to wait a day. Like you had to make your 53-man cut, and then after that day, you could put somebody on IR. And then they could come back this season. That's changed. You can make those changes. You can make that IR designation as of the cut down day. That's a big because that actually gives teams a little bit more flexibility. So it is possible that Hollywood ends up going on IR, but we won't know until cut down day because that's the only way he comes back this season. I just wanted to point that out because it was a new rule change this year.
Gotcha. Yeah. Rule changes I'm up to here with them so far because I'm not clearly doing everything that I can to understand all these rule changes.
And don't get me started
it's
on
a
the
pain.
kickoff rules.
Yeah. As we talked about last night, Justin Ross, riser. Nico Romeo fell a little bit. I do still have faith in him, so we're going to see what happens there. The guy that I felt went under the radar and deserves more reps after what we saw last night is Montrell Washington. He's been hot in practice. I thought he did all of his job against lower competition. I think he's ready for more snaps with the twos starting this week. How do you feel about him?
I've been saying it since I went and saw him at camp. I think that he needs to get more reps, and I think that they need to at least give him an opportunity and see what he can do. He's been phenomenal at camp, and that's definitely somebody that they need to be keeping an eye on. And it's really going to be hard because, like I've said multiple times, that 5th and 6th wide receiver role are generally going to have to be special teams guys. So if Washington beats out Remigio, then he can make the 53-man roster. It's going to be hard otherwise.
Yeah, agreed. Wrapping up offense, the running backs. Obviously, Steele was the talk of the game. Pacheco looked like Pacheco. Clyde was Clyde. Generic Prince, I think, fell a little bit in that, again, he didn't make that leap to be what I felt was a pressing running back, similar to what we saw last year. I still think he'll get a lot of reps in preseason game number 2 in order to try to step out of that.
I want to see him with the starters.
I will say this. Yeah, okay. I can't argue with that. I also want to see more.
Sorry.
Yeah. The guy who fell for me was Keontae Ingram, and the guy that rose for me is just because it's a bit of a spark plug is Amani Bailey. Now I can't see him making this roster. There's only room for 4, and possibly with the wide receiver position only 3. So, but I would like to see him get back to the practice squad. I think they're invested, and he does have that spark that I want to see more of in the preseason.
Yeah, and they're in a situation where Clyde's here for a year. He's guaranteed his spot on the roster is probably guaranteed, I would imagine, because his salary is guaranteed for the year. So he's likely going to be on this roster. At that point, then you have 3 guys this year, but they're going to need somebody next year. I can't imagine Clyde's going to be back 2 years in a row on a deal like what he got, but we'll see. They continue to bring McKinnon back year after year, so who knows? But you want to get better at that position, and Bailey hasn't shown it from what I've seen from what I saw in camp and what we saw in the preseason game. And the thing that really sticks out is when you go back and watch some of the preseason games of the past, you see running backs taking off and doing great things for the 3rd string and 4th string. And we always thought that they'd make the roster, and they haven't. This is the opposite situation. So, and that goes back to what I said about Generic Prince. I don't think that the offensive line was really getting any kind of push when he was in, and I think that was pretty evident. So I do want to see him get with an offensive line that can actually do some blocking and maybe open up a hole or 2.
I agree with you. On the defensive side, I thought Miles Battle earned more reps. He was in late against lower competition, played well in my opinion. I think he deserves a little bit more. Maybe you've seen enough of Key Taylor. I think you might back that off. It depends on Kelvin Joseph. When you look at the linebacker, there's 2 sets of guys right here that confounded me, and I have no answer yet. I need to see more of both Jack Cochran and Cam Jones. I felt both of them had some issues. They graded out about the same. I don't know. I need something to make a distinction there. And the other pair for me is Neil Farrell and Fabian Lovett. I preferred Lovett myself, but he's got a long way to go too. And they graded out about the same. So do you see differences in either of those guys, or is there somebody else that I missed that really deserves a shout out here?
I don't really see huge differences. I think that Cochran made a splash play. I think he's going to be likely at this point. I think he's going to be on the roster just based on what we've seen from the linebackers and the way they have been playing. So I would expect he's going to be on the roster. The question is how many linebackers are they going to keep? When it comes to the defensive tackle rotation, when Derek Nottie isn't playing, which he wasn't last night, Chris Jones wasn't playing last night. So in those 2 situations, you've got your top 2 guys out. Farrell is basically a bigger type Mike Pennell, who's a nose tackle. They don't really have another guy outside of Farrell that has that kind of size. So is that something that they really want? I will say this. I was impressed by what I saw from the Chiefs running defense early in the game. I'm not going to say it was perfect, but I thought it was a lot better than I was expecting it to be because, it's preseason game number 1. I would expect that that's something that they're going to have to work into, but they looked better than I expected. So that's a positive sign.
Yeah, I agree. We talked about FAU last night. We talked about Malik Herring last night. The other guy that I thought was kind of stops and starts, and I need him to just stop thinking and run his pass rush because I think he has potential, is Truman Jones. I thought he was better against the run than I expected, but it looked like he was still slow in attacking the passer, unlike what I saw in college. So I do think he just needs to unlock that and get after it.
Yeah, and that's a position where it's going to be tough because they have so many different pass rushers already. You've got 3. Hugh's not going to be on the roster probably until, I don't know, late October, maybe November. So that's going to be something to watch. But you have a spot And with BJ Thompson not being out there, that's a question of, can somebody go and take that spot? So Truman Jones would have a chance of taking that spot, but he could be back on the practice squad just as easy. It's also a question of, do they feel like they have enough at that defensive end position, or is that going to be something that they may look at with their available cap space?
Yeah, it certainly could be. Last guy I want to mention is I need to see more from Kamal Hadden. He did not look on this film anything like his college film. He was very detached. I think his head is still swimming. Can he make some progress this week? And does he get more than his, I think it was 7 total snaps in week 2? That's what I'm looking for.
And that's a problem for him, because you look at a guy like Keith Taylor, who I didn't think had a great game. And you still had 2 guys out there that should have been, that you would think are probably ahead of Taylor in, Nazeeh Johnson and Kelvin Joseph, and both those guys are still out. So, making this roster, we've talked about it. Hadden may not make the roster, and that's possible. And if that happens, I do think that it's possible with the way he looked and as few snaps as he got. Maybe they're trying to figure that he's going to be a practice squad guy, and that's their whole plan. Is that at this point they don't think he can make it, and he needs time on the practice squad, so they're not going to play him that much because they don't want to expose him to everybody else.
Could be. We're going to have to see what comes of it. We will let you know when we know more. Welcome to a brand new week. Hopefully we will have an update on Monday for when we record the Tuesday show. Thank you for spending your time with us. Hope that you enjoyed your weekend and everything the Chiefs did. Chris has something else, evidently.
Just want to update, since we haven't really talked about it since Bucker got signed. Chiefs cap space is currently at $17.1 million. Definitely enough space to make some moves. So expect that they probably have, I would say, $13 million before you take into account all the other players. So they have some moves they could make, something to watch.
Yeah, definitely keep an eye on that, and we'll see what happens. Make sure you like and sub, and you're with us for tomorrow. We're going to have a great show this week. Matt Derrick will be with us as we prepare for preseason week number 2, and we'll get an update from the last few days of camp. Oh, a quick note, if you are going to camp on Monday, it is a later start. I believe it's delayed an hour, but check the schedule on Chiefs.com. Have a great day. Enjoy your time out there. We appreciate you being with us. Like and sub and hit that bell. Have a great one, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.